Hi there, Tracy here for Imagine Crafts. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to paint or color using your Sukaneko inks and your brush sticks and some tiny brushes. So let's go ahead and jump into the video. Okay, and hello and welcome. So today we are going to stamp and color this sunflower scene. I'm going to be stamping with the VersaFine Clair and Acorn, and I'll also be embossing with clear embossing powder right over top of it, which is going to kind of help in many ways, help keep my lines clear and things like that. So, and I'll show you what I'm going to do. We're going to be using a lot of ink. So I've got my anti-static powder tool. I, of course, will be using a stamp platform. And I'm going to be using a mixture of Memento and Versamagic inks. I've got an assortment of brushes, and I've got my brush sticks. And these are all tiny brushes that I got on Amazon, which are really handy for a situation like this. So we've got Versamagic and Mango Madness. My sunflowers are going to be dark ones. Tangelo in Memento. So I'm combining inks, no big deal, you can do that. I've got Morocco in Memento. I've got Potter's Clay in Memento. I have Rhubarb Stalk in Memento. And I'll have these listed down below. Jumbo Java in the Versamagic. I've got Sea Breeze in the Versamagic. I've got Bamboo Leaves in the Memento, and I've got Tea Leaves in the Versamagic. And then I finally got a hint of Pesto in the Versamagic, so the darkest green. And then I've got a little bit of Brilliance and the Moonlit White, and I've got a little cloud stencil. And let's go ahead and jump in here. Going to grab a piece of paper that is a very smooth paper. It's great for stamping and blending. You do want to use a smoother paper for something like this so that your inks, cooperate with you. So I'm going to stamp down my sunflower after adding anti-static powder with my VersaFine Clair and Acorn. And I'll do a couple of stampings on this because it's a red rubber stamp and I want it nice and dark, and I want the ink to be very thick so that it'll grab onto all the clear embossing powder. So I'm going to coat this over with clear embossing powder. And I do want to make sure there's none left over because that will get in the way of our inks, our coloring. And then I'm going to go ahead and heat set this with my heat gun, or my heat tool. I guess it's not a gun. And just want to make sure that it's all set. And I do miss a spot, but I'll get that later, no worries. I'm going to start with my lightest ink and my tiny brush here. And I'm just going to start brushing the ink in. And the beauty here of Versamagic is it's like a pigment and it stays wet long enough to really do some blending. But I want to get into these really tight spots. So I'm using my brush sticks tip to get into those tight spots without getting it everywhere. And that's what they're super, super handy for, especially if you're going to be coloring with ink. See, there's a spot I missed, so I'll go ahead and heat set it. Make sure everything else is heat set and completely melted. So coming in with the brush sticks just ensures that I don't get ink, on the outside of the lines, and then having embossed that assists with that as well. Then I'll grab my brush and just go ahead and fill in. I'm going to be using several colors. And I grab a paper towel and I can wipe any excess ink off of my embossing. So next I'll come in with the Tangelo and just start adding color to my little leaves. Or petals, I guess you could say. So I'm happy with that, but I'm going to come over here and just grab any spots that I might have missed with my brush sticks, and those spots where I was waiting for the embossing powder to cool off. And then next I'm going to be coming in with the Morocco down close to the center of the flower and kind of in the back petals, to represent shadows. And also to give my sunflower a little more orange color. So I'm going for fall colors here, if you hadn't noticed. Which is why I did this in the Acorn instead of black. But you could do black if you wanted to. And then I'm coming in the very center and just blending in a little bit of rhubarb in the very center of the flower. Not the very center, but closest to the center. And then kind of in the back leaves. And then I'll come back in with my Versamagic and just blend those out. And it's just, this stuff is magic. It just blends so beautifully. And then any spots that I might have missed, come in and get darker. Then I'm going to come in with my potter's clay and do part of the center of the flower. And then in the middle, I'm using the Jumbo Java. So now I'm going to come in with my brush stick, and I'm just wiping that off on a piece of paper towel because I want to come in with a lighter green. I always start with my lightest color, and I use the same brush stick throughout, you know, as far as color families go. So I'll use this one for all the greens, but I want to start it with the lightest greens. And I'm just kind of filling in, you know, making sure, especially in those skinny lines where the stems come out of the stalk and onto the leaf. And then I'll use my brush to kind of blend this out. Then I'll come in with my, what is this one, bamboo leaves, and get some little darker spots. So these kind of stamps kind of lend themselves to knowing where to put the shadows because they already have them ingrained in there. And then finally I'll come in with a hint of pesto and my brush sticks and go in and just darken some of the areas, just to kind of add some dimension. And I'll be coloring the rest of this mostly off camera because you've seen me color the big one, the small ones, but I do want to show you how easy they are. And I do want to show you how I get the sky in there. So this is where the brush sticks really do their job, and especially with the Versamagic, because it stays wet long enough that you can blend it around. And I'll show you, I'll illustrate that for you in a minute. So I'm getting in between all of these little petals here, and you can see as I wipe it off, it cleans up. It's beautiful. And then what I'll do is continue to use the brush sticks on the outside of the petals like so that I can come right into the petal. And it's okay if there's a little bit of white, and then I can come in with a bigger brush and brush out, you know, the larger areas, and then an even bigger brush to kind of get the big areas, and it all blends in perfectly. It's amazing. I love, love, love this ink. So then I can come back in and get these other spots and then use my brush to kind of blend everything nicely together. And this, my friends, is how you paint with your inks. I mean, you could paint it too, but you want to make sure you use the right kind of paper. This paper, as I said in the beginning, kind of lends itself. And this is a paper that I get from Australia, from a place called Crafty Critta. It's called Stamping and Blending Paper or something like that. Anyway, I'll list it down below. So I've created a little cloud with the moonlit white, and I want to show you kind of how I colored these bottom flowers. And I have blended out my cloud as well. But I'm going to take my brush sticks, and I've already done the yellow off camera. I'm going to go ahead and grab the Tangelo and just show you how easy these little ones are, because there's not much to them. As long as you stay in the line, you're good. They don't have to be perfect. They're kind of an afterthought. The big sunflower is the star of the show. So I'm doing this all just with my brush sticks and none of my little brushes. So I've got it all colored, and I did want to show you how I did that cloud. So I've stenciled the cloud on, and then I've just taken my brush that I was using the blue with and just kind of, you know, rubbed it out a little bit because that's also a pigment. So now I'm going to trim this down to 3 3/4 by 5. And I'm going to glue it down to a piece of brown cardstock. Now I'm going to attempt to add highlights with my gel pen, but I have been very disappointed with my gel pens of late. They just really don't want to work, and they don't like to work. The problem is they don't like to work over pigment inks. I'm awaiting a correction pen, you know, like whiteout, to see if I have better luck with it. So I got some highlights on there, and I'm going to be happy with that because that's, you know, I don't want to wreck it by trying to get too much. I'm going to glue this down to a brown piece of paper, and then I'm going to trim that paper off. And then I'm going to mess up that paper because my trimmer already messed it up, so might as well just continue with the mess. And I'm just using the edges of my serrated scissors and trying not to get ink all over this too. And just kind of messing that up. And then I will glue that down to a piece of craft. And I'm going to do the same with the craft. And it's just going to give it kind of a rustic feel. So I'll trim those sides down till they're fairly equal to each other. And then I'll do the same thing with my scissors and make a mess of it. Just like so. And then I'll end up gluing this down to a light blue card base. Just because I like the way it looks. But I want to do some splattering first. So I've got my bleed proof white here and a little paintbrush. And I'm just going to tap some white splatters on here. And my bleed proof white is watered down. So just so you know, it comes in the bottle really thick, but I added water to mine because it got dry because I hadn't used it. And then I'm going to grab some gold shimmer from my stash and do a little bit of gold on here. And that's just going to zhuzh the card up. Now, I've added a sentiment. I've added it down to the card base, and that's the card finished. What do you think? Listen, friends, I think it's super cool, and I hope you try it. And even if it's messy, it's still gorgeous. So don't forget to try it. And these brush sticks are amazing, especially with the Versa Magics. So, hope you like this video. If you do, leave me a thumbs up. I'll have everything listed in the description box below. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Take care. Bye-bye.